of the presentation is in the air. It's the Friday Football Feast. Welcome back. It's PA in charge. Producer Nordo by our side. Here is the aforementioned Danny Parkins of Parkins and Spiegel from 670 The Score out of Chicago. He co-wrote a book called Pipeline to the Pros, offering stories of players and coaches like, say, Chris Finch, who have ascended from D3 basketball to the NBA. Danny, it's Paul Allen here with your friend Paul Charchi, and good to meet you. And first and foremost, how did you get Jeff Van Gundy to write the foreword?
That's an excellent question. He is an incredibly nice man, and when he found out that we were working on a book about D3 guys who made it to the NBA, he was like, "There's a book there?" And I was like, yeah, there is, because guys like you kicked down the door and then started hiring a bunch of D3 people, or recommending D3 people like you did with Stan Van Gundy, or hiring guys like Tibbs, who I'm sure we'll talk about, and Steve Clifford and Andy Greer. And so as we went through all of the reporting on the story, and I was calling him back to fact check some stuff, I had practiced my pitch in the mirror. I was like, honestly, there's no one better to write this forward than Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah.
And I do the whole long, drawn-out 90-second spiel of a pitch, and he goes, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's it.
And then this is the best part. I'll never forget this as long as I live. He goes, "I wrote the foreword for Coach Pitino's book, so I can write one for you." I'm like, we don't know each other like that, Jeff. So just like the nicest guy in the world, and he was amazing, and it's a great foreword.
Now, just to be accurate with this, to help the cause, is the book released next Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
You pre-order it now, and you'll have it April 16th.
Got it. Pre-order it now, April 16th for the official release. The book is called Pipeline to the Pros. Mr. Charchi?
It's about D3 athletes and coaches who are able to rise to the level of the NBA. So let's talk Chris Finch, because he's got a great story here. He went to a school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania that I had never heard of before. Lancaster, thank you, called Franklin and Marshall, which is apparently one school, not two, Franklin and Marshall. And I'm guessing the Franklin is Ben, but I don't know for sure. Talk to us a little bit about Chris Finch, our coach here.
Yeah, so was able to talk to him for the book. Fascinating guy. Proud of his origin story. Chris Finch was a hooper. Like, Chris Finch, two-time All-American in college. Filled up the stat sheet. Like, he definitely is competitive as hell. I'm sure, like, if guys are not running the drills correctly, he might have some delusions of grandeur of yesteryear and show them how to go through and execute it, below the rim, but still how to execute the drill correctly. And there was a great story that I'll give the truncated version here, but he was very, very, very competitive and really didn't back down from anybody. And the big man on the team was not performing with the requisite amount of intensity that Chris Finch felt like he needed to. And one thing led to another in the locker room, and Chris Finch had this guy up against the wall.
Wow.
And he was just like, you got to get on my level of intensity. So Chris Finch squeezed every ounce of his athletic ability out of himself, and he demanded that type of accountability of his teammates.
And Chris is a Philly guy, so I mean, there's a certain level of emotion and or aggression or angst you're going to get to in a situation like that. But when you get to that Philly level, somebody's up against the wall, as we just learned.
Now, Finch.
Yeah, and I think that there's like a little bit of, there's a common thread of these guys who are just kind of doing it for the love of the game. They have no, delusions that they're going to make it to the NBA, but the humility that comes with D3 basketball, it's about the game. It's about executing correctly. It's okay. The coach is driving the van and doing the laundry, and we actually lost the main gym to the girls volleyball team. There's no preferential treatment for the basketball program, and that, I think, that level of humility and work ethic was a constant theme throughout the book.
So you mentioned Jeff Van Gundy wrote the foreword. You talked to Chris Finch and many others, and we'll hit on some of the others as well. But Did you find Danny Parkins, author, Pipeline to the Pros, about D3 athletes who were able to rise to the NBA? Did you find that, Danny, people were more willing to talk because of this subject matter about the D3 journey all the way up?
100%. Two very big, very notable figures were not willing to talk despite kind of being teased that they were going to talk.
Okay.
And in the case of the Oklahoma City Thunder, over 100 pieces of discourse back and forth, stringing us along.
Wow.
And that was Greg Popovich and Sam Presti.
Okay.
And Pop famously secretive, and Pop hired Presti famously secretive, and he got it from Pop. But honestly, if you read it in the book, we talked to so many people around them who had worked underneath them in the front office, because Pop used to be a general manager. Presti, obviously the best executive in the NBA. These people who were on his coaching staff, people who were players. Pop's academic advisor back at Pomona. I mean, we did over 100 interviews for this book. We did over 800 hours of research over 3 years. The book is very well reported, and the secrecy is part of the ethos. So those two guys did not end up talking to us, even though they were happy that we were writing the book, we were told. But basically everybody else was so proud of their origin story and so happy that a light was being shined on this level of basketball, and how, you can make it from there to the NBA and make a difference. And it doesn't really matter that you can't do a windmill dunk. That the vast majority of people were willing to talk to us.
Does that include Tom Thibodeau?
I could have actually. So we talked to Brad Stevens, we talked to Frank Vogel, we talked to Hubie Brown and Dick Vitale and Mike Fratello. Tibbs, I guess, is the third guy who would not talk to us.
I'm not surprised.
We talked to Steve Clifford and Andy Greer. Yeah, Tibbs, that really upset Casey Johnson, longtime Bulls beat reporter, because he even talked to Tibbs and called Tibbs on our behalf. Casey played D3 ball, but Tibbs did not speak for the book either.
All right. Now, that doesn't mean you can't talk about people like Popovich and Thibodeau, right? I mean, they can still be in the book. They just don't get to tell their story firsthand.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying. We did over 100 interviews. I mean, Andy Greer, Steve Clifford, Jeff Van Gundy, Stan Van Gundy, that's the Thibodeau inner circle. We talked to 4 of the 5, so we absolutely feel like we were able to cover this. And, there's so much documentation of these guys once they get to the NBA that there was plenty of secondhand source material on these people. But it was a bit of a bummer. I was like, Jeff Van Gundy told Tibbs to talk to me, and he still wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So that kind of bummed me out as a Bulls fan.
Danny Parkins is a radio host on Score 670 in Chicago. He and I go back over a decade. Worked with Henry Lake for a long time in Kansas City. Author of the new book, Pipeline to the Pros. It comes out next Tuesday, and you can pre-order. If I want to pre-order that, what should I do, Danny?
Yeah, you can just, wherever you get your books, but Amazon is probably the easiest. You can go to Triumph Books' website as well. It's all over my social media if you need a direct link. But just, everyone's got Prime these days. So just search Pipeline to the Pros on Amazon, and you can pre-order it, and it'll be there for you on Tuesday.
Hey, Danny, if the Pipeline to the Pros ever segues over to the National Football League, a friend of mine with whom I worked at the Minnesota Vikings about 20-some-odd years ago, Chad Oslin, just sent me a text. He's listening. Commissioner Roger Goodell went to Division III Washington and Jefferson in Pennsylvania.
There you go.
So you can start with Big Red with the Pipeline to the Pros, because I think we have an in to him if you want to move it over to the NFL side, my man.
All right. Well, there we go. There's the sequel. There's the sequel to the book, or maybe that's for the documentary.
Well, we can
go all sports.
And I bet you, given the coaching staffs en masse and how many players there are in the NFL, I bet you the Pipeline to the Pros, probably with like D3, I don't know what the numbers would be or anything, but just simply the voluminous nature of the coaching staffs and the teams, there probably would be a fair amount, right?
Yeah, so that's actually a big part of how this happened. Is so a lot of coaches who we talked to have lamented the growth of the size of coaching staffs. How there's now 2 rows on the bench, and there's a shooting specialist and a big man coach and an offensive coach and a defense coach and then a shooting coach for the offensive guy, for the big man, and a shooting guy for the wing, and all of these things. And then, with that comes more opportunities, and a G League staff has more opportunities, and the expansion of advanced scouting and video coordination and analytics and data sciences. All of those are more opportunities now for guys with different backgrounds to get into the book, or to get into the league that we put into the book. And I mean, when I talk about how expansive this is, when we started working on it, 12 of the 30 teams in the NBA, either their head coach or their top basketball decision maker had played D3 basketball.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was statistically, you were as likely to have ran an NBA team if you played D3 ball or played D1 ball, which is just remarkable.
Twitter follower Don is listening to the conversation now and notes that the only D3 guy ever drafted in the first round and the only D3 guy to win 3 NBA titles, Augsburg, Minnesota's Devin George.
Wow. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot Devin went to
Absolutely.
Augsburg. So, Danny, I think it's pretty cool where, when I was researching this with reading about Chris Finch and Frank Vogel and stuff and like looking, to learn more about the book, which is not out yet, but you can pre-order. And I came across, and I'm sure you've seen it if you looked at stuff like this, a site called Pages and Pearls. And it was very cool. I mean, very well-respected book reviewing website, and wrote, overall, Pipeline to the Pros is a must-read for any basketball fan, offering a captivating blend of history, inspiration, and insight into the inner workings of the world of basketball. It's a testament to the resilience and determination of individuals who dared to dream big and paved the way for future generations in the world of sports. Those are high accolades. Those are terrific. And finally, for me, it's like when it comes to non-obvious routes to the highest level, the NBA in this case, so the pinnacle of the profession, but coming from the Division III level, any non-obvious routes or angles that you learned while co-writing this?
Oh, I mean, there were so many of them, honestly. But yeah, sure. Like, some of the guys didn't think, even when they had graduated and had even been approached by NBA teams, that they were going to go and do it, because they just didn't even believe that it was possible. Rafael Stone, who's running the Rockets, was the youngest legal partner at a law firm. Brad Stevens worked at Eli Lilly. Kobe Altman, who runs the Cavs, was a real estate broker.
Wow.
And part of what helped him with Dan Gilbert made his money in mortgages. So they were able to talk real estate. So these guys, the Tibbs generation, who struggled when they were given, front office control, they came up as pure basketball people and pure teachers. But some of the younger D3 guys, like I just mentioned, Brad Stevens, Kobe Altman, Rafael Stone, younger guys did other things, yes, played D3 basketball and had enough basketball intellect, but they had such well-rounded educations that they were able to relate to owners more and say, making a pitch on a real estate deal or negotiating something with legalese, that's not that different than a contract or a trade. And that well-rounded education, they kind of fell into their pro basketball career, and then they ended up rising to the top ranks. So there are so many stories like that throughout the book. And it was I agree with you, Paul. That was the thing that kind of drew me to the story more than anything else.
All right, let's wrap it on this, Danny. Again, author, Pipeline to the Pros. You can go to Amazon, type in Pipeline to the Pros. You can pre-order it there, learn more about it there. You can also follow Danny on Twitter at Danny Parkins. There's a philanthropic tie-in to this book that is very important to you personally. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about why a portion of the profits go to brain cancer research?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. That's very kind of you. So I almost didn't take the project on when my best friend since third grade, Ben Kaplan, told me about the 12 of 30 stat. Because I had a young son, had a second along the way. My dad was deep into a dementia battle, and my brother had just been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And I was like, I honestly don't think that I can put another project onto my plate.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that I did, to work with, my best friend since third grade on something. And then his dad actually, after we started working on the book, got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and passed away. So from concept to publication on Tuesday, we both lost our dad, and I lost my brother. And Brad passed away a year ago, basically 3 days ago, April 9th of last year, to brain cancer. And I've since joined the board of directors at a local charity here in Chicago called Brain Up, which is quickly becoming the largest brain cancer charity in Chicago. We donate 100% of the money raised to research here. And Brad was really into science and research. And so, yeah, this is not a money maker for me. I know it's a niche subject matter, but we're very proud of the final product. And I will be donating a portion of every book sold to brain cancer research in honor of my brother.
That's beautiful. Thank God, both of you, for sharing. That's amazing. Best routes to find the book, Pipeline to the Pros.
Yeah, so again, pipeline to the Pros, how D3 small college nobodies rose to rule the NBA. So if you just Google Pipeline to the Pros, it's on Amazon. I think it's the number 2 bestseller for new releases in sports right now. So with that KFAN bump, maybe we can get it up to number 1, which would be amazing. But yeah, really appreciate it. Just search Pipeline to the Pros. You'll find it.
Come on, man. You're in radio. As we are taught, KFAN is too pedestrian. It has to be KFAN.
KFAN. My apologies.
Everybody, 99.8% of the world calls it KFAN, but it's a pedestrian world.
It was going so well, and then I blew the call out.
No, you're fine. You're elite. Thank you very much. God bless you and your family, specifically with that last thing you shared. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you very much for
one more. I want a 2-word answer, Danny.
Yeah.
Pick 9 Bears. I want the 2-word answer as a first name and a last name. We'll let you go.
Okay.
Rome Odunze.
I'm listening to that.
Quarterback, wide receiver. Does he plays the slot, doesn't he? Or is he multi-positional?
Yeah, he's more of a big body X, but he seems like he can go anywhere.
Right.
Keenan Allen's probably only going to be here 1 year, so just support the offense.
If you're going to move offense and skill position, I mean, I know this guy is good, but I know the Vikings aren't. I would bet the Vikings aren't taking a tight end in the first round, specifically with the Hawkinson and the Hawkinson deal. So I just, was like looking at this Brock Bowers a little bit yesterday and this morning. I like Cole Kmet, but with DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, the running back situation, which has improved, and Keenan Allen and this Brock Bowers, holy cow, would the Bears be formidable? What do you think?
It'd be exciting. I'd be surprised given that they also signed Gerald Everett, but as top offensive player on the board, if it's Joe Alt who falls, if it's Malik Neighbors who falls, if it's Brock Bowers, I think it'll be Odunze. But if they take a defensive player, maybe it's the final piece to make them the best defense in the NFL, but support your young quarterback. So whoever the top offensive guy is on the board at 9 is who I want Ryan Poles to take.
Yep.
The power of KFAN right here, Danny. Pulled you up on Amazon. Number 1 new release in the sports category.
Hey.
Pipeline to the Pros.
Hey!
Number 1, baby.
Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, that's the first time it's hit that number. Thank you guys so much. That's amazing.
No problem.
Awesome. Great talking to you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do. Danny Parkins from 670 The Score in Chicago, and that book, A Pipeline to the Pros, D3 basketball coaches and players like Chris Finch and Frank Vogel and so on, and Jeff Van Gundy and Stan Van Gundy, who have ascended from the D3 level to the professionals. Did it surprise you at all when he put offense with that 9th pick? Because I'm just like, it's like, my thought process with the Bears has been, all right, you're going to get Caleb Williams and you're going to be right and you're going to win with him. I mean, you're going to hit and you're going to win with him.
Yep.
But like the next one, I mean, seriously, if with the way Montez Sweat played last year, I'm like, whatever the Turner, the Alabama edge, or whomever, like you go ahead and bookend Williams with something like that. Wow.
Yeah, okay, and that sounds great, right? So you can absolutely make a case for the Bears defense to get better, but here's the thing. They just went through an exercise with Justin Fields in which they gave him no offensive line and no receiving targets, and it flopped. Yeah. They've got to build around Caleb Williams. They will go either offensive line or Rome Odunze specifically with that pick to make sure they give that quarterback every opportunity to succeed.
My intel is Alt, the Notre Dame offensive lineman, to the Tennessee Titans.
That's being almost, that's maybe the most It's one of the most bankable spots.
Are they 7
in this first round? They're 7.
Right. So now you got Atlanta, and so like I agree with you on the offensive line, and skill position wise, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen are the skeletal remains thereof because he's getting close to the end.
Yeah, although he's coming off another big season.
So running DeAndre Swift. That's right. You can't trust DeAndre, but when you can trust him, he could be really, really good. Plus, the Texas rookie, Roshan Johnson, is super fast.
Right. Khalil Herbert's pretty good.
Pretty good. Right. So, the offensive lineman completely makes sense. Thank you. When 9 to noon continues, Vikes Bites on the FAN app.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for Vikes Bites, and that's presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to the website, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. You can shop online, or you can find elite grass-fed beef at your local co-op and Coburn's locations.
Vikes Bites.
So you remember the tampering-regarded allegations and conversations around the Falcons and their pursuit?
Yeah, they
Kirk
tampered.
Cousins?
That's the part I remember is the Falcons tampered.
Well, I caught this from Mike Florio. Mike Florio, he's all over this, and he will not let it go. And maybe the league won't either. We shall see. Still just 13 days until the first round of the NFL draft. But here's Mike Florio. It's about 1 minute, 20 seconds, Charchie. Mike Florio talking with one of his cohorts, Shereen Williams, in relation to just that, the tampering and how the league might handle it.
The Vikings are going to have to do something. They're either going to have to move up into the top 5, or they're going to have to jump up into somewhere in the bottom 5, or they're going to have to hope, and I spitballed about this yesterday, they're going to have to hope that 5 minutes before the draft, the NFL announces that as punishment for blatantly tampering with Kirk Cousins, the Vikings and the Falcons are flip-flopping picks number 8 and 11.
Yep. Yeah, that would be interesting, Mike. And it would affect a lot of things, obviously, to have them do that. And I know you and Miles were going, well, it's just 3 picks. Well, it's not just 3 picks. It's up into the top 10. How does that affect the draft? But I do think that would be a possibility from the league. I do think it would be something that the Vikings obviously would like very much, and the Falcons would not like very much, but it also would affect the other teams in there who might cry foul that the NFL has done this. But there has to be some penalty paid by the Falcons because it was such blatant tampering with Kirk Cousins. There has to be some penalty. Whatever that penalty is, there has to be a penalty paid, and that makes sense that that would be a reasonable penalty that they would have to pay for the tampering.
So how about that, Mr. Charchi, and the idea that the punishment for and Shereen nailed it. It was so blatant, so obvious, the tampering. The concept of the Vikings and Falcons flipping the 8 and 11 overall picks so that the Vikings are now in the top 8. And how would that potentially change the idea of trading up and how much things would cost?
First, it's happened before. The league has made similar actions. There have been 5 or 6 cases where the league has historically gone in and issued some kind of penalty for a team that is tampered. There was 100% tampering with Kirk Cousins. Kyle Pitts has inadvertently ended up confirming it. He knew Cousins was already coming before the designated tampering window opened. So I think this thing's 99% likely the Falcons tampered. The Vikings should be working their asses off to make the league make a decision on this before the draft.
Right.
Because the league has done exactly what's being suggested by Florio here. The league has a history of forcing teams to flop first-round spots as a penalty. And I think they should do that here. The Vikings would end up moving 4 spots, right? They'd move from 3 spots, 11 to 8. The catch here and why it's maybe not as valuable as I would like is you still have quarterback-needy teams in the Giants, especially, and the Tennessee Titans right ahead of you. I think the Titans are quarterback-needy. It's another conversation, though. It doesn't get you past them. And those are teams that you may be competing with to move up. But if the Vikings are going to move up, that might save you a second-round pick. That might save you a third-round pick if you're going to try to move from 7 to 4 or 7 to 3.
It could save you next year's one, right? I mean, because that's been part of a conversation.
Maybe. It feels like a lot to save by moving 3 picks, but maybe. So, if the price gets more palatable, and it might, the Vikings use every tool at their disposal to force the league to investigate this and rule on it quickly so the Vikings have time to make that move.
And then you draft the best edge rusher in the NFL rookie class. And when the Falcons are at U.S. Bank Stadium, the Falcons pick sacks the Falcons quarterback.
Oh, my God. Kirko, chill.
Vikes Bites.
Brought to you by Thousand Hills. Charge, regardless of the QB, who they are, and drafted, although there are some scenarios in which this matters, so I shouldn't completely discount that. Is there anything that you envision changing or needing to change in 2024 with the Vikings offense? For instance, Vikings ran the ball just under 30% of the time in 2023. We've mentioned it, not with you here, but you'd be aware of the idea that in Kirk Cousins' tenure with the Vikings, used to be a lot of under center, under center, play action, back to the defense, etc. Well, Kevin O'Connell's offense has been very, very even in terms of shotgun snaps versus under center. So in 2024 with the Vikings offense, we bring this rookie in here. We're excited to let this thing rip. Is there anything that you picture and you would be pinpointed as saying this needs to change, whether it's Darnold, the rookie, etc., taking the snaps?
Well, yeah, a lot of it depends on who your quarterback is, right? And we don't know who our quarterback is. I think it's Sam Darnold, your Week 1 quarterback, for the record.
Yeah,
I believe
bet that.
I believe that's going to be the case, and I
put that at 90%. By the way,
wow. Okay,
no matter who they draft.
Yeah, when they signed Sam Darnold, and I tweeted as much, there was. Let's just say the fan base was not ready to hear that message, but I think they're starting to understand that now. So
wasn't that while you were camping?
Probably, yeah. I think that went down while I was camping, and there was a lot of hate coming back to me in Zion over that.
Well, what does the Pelicans power forward have to do with anything? It's a football conversation. We've talked about that, Paul.
Yeah, I hear you. So what on the offense would probably change? Obviously, you're going to have to get more and more rushes and more consistent production out of that. Aaron Jones, honestly, better than anybody we had running the ball last year. We just need to keep him healthy.
Wow.
He catches the ball.
For you to say, specifically with
Ty Chandler.
You know how I feel about
Ty Chandler.
Yeah,
but
correct.
Aaron Jones is on a different level, or at least he has been, and we assume he's not going to fall off the cliff here at age 29, I believe, for Aaron Jones. Man, if there's one answer to your question, what can be a big change to this offense, really regardless of who's at quarterback? Throwing the ball to our running backs. Aaron Jones is a top 7 receiving running back in this league. Let's do something we've never done well. Let's under Kevin O'Connell. Let's start throwing to our runners.
Vikes Bites.
I thought they threw to Cook quite well 2 years ago.
I think we can go a whole level past that here.
Maybe.
I'd have to look at his stats, but yeah, it did feel. Well, okay, screen game. How about screen game? What do we think
like
of the
one
screens?
against Indianapolis to Dalvin after they stopped Matt Ryan on 4th down. Then that screen to Dalvin that went 1,000,000 yards. That was sweet.
Yeah, that was a nice touchdown right there. Dalvin could catch.
You absolutely could. I'm scrambling. So
I got it.
His final season in Minnesota.
Yep.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
46 receptions
39.
for 39 receptions for 400 yards.
295.
Right.
It was only 7.6 per reception, but it was as high as in like a 3-year span.
Yeah, it was his most targets going back to 2019.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones has got 60 reception upside in him if he's healthy for the full season.
I think they're well, I know, but I just don't know exactly how to explain it until either I'm told how to explain it or I see it. There are different running back routes that you can do or utilize with Aaron Jones that you can't with a lot of running backs. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying Dalvin's one of them. Like, Dalvin screens. Yes, good. The screen is an angle route or a wheel route. It involves like becoming a receiver. Mm-hmm. A screen is a running back waiting for the offensive lineman to get in front of him, and there has to be a beat or two and a pause when you get it so they can set up shop. That's a struggle. Adrian Peterson always. That's why they never screened Adrian. He just couldn't wait. I mean, he'd get the ball and be like, "Okay, who do I kill? Who do I run through now?"
You'd think you could, and through 8 years he was here, whatever.
And
you'd think you could train that into him.
I'd have to learn more about the analytics with Love and Jones and Rodgers and Jones. I don't think the screen bit was super high. The angle routes, so X amount of steps stay to the right, hard cut left over the middle, kind of a running back version of an angled shallow cross, and then go that way and the blockers are out in front of you, or the wheel route, which every team does with every running back over the history of the NFL. But they're just different things, I'm being told, you can do with Aaron Jones in the passing game.
For sure.
Vikes Bites.
Final thing for you, at least for this segment, the Vikings total via FanDuel right now is at 6.5.
How about that?
Would you hammer one side of that in particular? Clearly the implication here, and that's the lowest total, and I have the division rivals here, but 6.5, clearly the implication is that there's a continued setback or a continued downturn, a continued regression. Given how 2023 ended. Just 6.5, gentlemen.
I was going to bring that up to you later in the show. I posed the question or the statement a couple of days ago from DraftKings, though, but it's the same number. And it's Green Bay and Detroit are each 10.5 wins. Mm-hmm. Now we got overs and unders shaded here, but just numbers-wise, 10.5. The Bears, 8.5.
Yeah.
Well, this is obviously, pre-draft wagering. And you don't, there are certain limits, before the draft, the limits increase after the draft, the limits increase after training camp starts, stuff like that. But Nordo's right. I mean, at FanDuel and DraftKings, your football team's at 6.5. I mean, in this, you color it cheerleader radio, homerific radio, something I'd never do, but it just...
Wait, you would never do any of those things?
No, at first blush, it feels like $22,000 to win 10 on because it's not minus 220, excuse me. It's but nevertheless the over, I don't know what it is, like the minus whatever, but 6.5 period. What do you think? Oh, I'll tell you the 22 to win 10 that I was thinking. I didn't write it down. It's when I was researching this early in the week, it's FanDuel or DraftKings or both, but the total for quarterbacks I saw it in the Tolstoy.
Yeah.
4.5. So then I double checked it. It's still 4.5, but it's now minus 260 for the over. You had it 220. It's minus 260. We'll talk about that later. The 6.5 for the Vikings. What do you think? 6.5? You kidding me?
So the part of this turns into a Sam Darnold discussion. I think Sam Darnold's even if this team drafts somebody moves to 3 or 4, or if they draft somebody at their natural positions, there's a good chance that kid's sitting and sitting for a while. Yeah. And so this becomes in part a discussion on Sam Darnold. And if you think Sam Darnold can generate wins for your team, so let's
it's talk. 100 to win just under 70, by the way.
Is it?
Yep. It's minus 144.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's what we know about Sam.
And that's a pretty heavy number, by the way, a 145, 150.
That is.
It's like the higher you get, it's going to go up a half. You know what I mean? If they keep crushing the over.
With Darnold, who did not play meaningfully last year, but he was, if you go back 2 seasons, he was Carolina's backup behind Baker Mayfield. But then eventually they cut Baker Mayfield outright, and he went to the Rams and that whole thing with Baker Mayfield, and then Sam Darnold ended up playing. In those 6 games that he played at the end of 2 years ago with Carolina, he won 4 of them. That wasn't all bad. 7 interceptions, but...
No, 7 touchdowns.
7 touchdowns, thank you, 3 picks.
Like 2 or 3 picks, right.
But in totality, it's not very good. He's played 38 career games, I believe. Yeah, 38 career games with the Jets. He only won 13 there. His winning percentage is .375.
Right, but I mean,
lifetime.
we'll chat about it in the final hour.
So
that's almost draw a line through the past performance because of the skill position players or lack thereof that they had compared to like what he will have.
This is the best spot he'd be in as a starting quarterback ever by a million miles if he's throwing to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson.
And Addison and Jones on the angle.
Yeah.
All right, so you laid it out nicely. Well, have the rubber meet the road because
Under.
you are futures guy.
I'm under.
And see, you're under 6.5.
I am.
Which means for a 6.5 means we believe you're going to lose twice to the Lions. We believe you're going to lose twice to somebody else in your division and split with the other team.
Yeah, I do. I think we're looking at like one win
Crazy.
in the division as it sits right now pre-draft.
Yeah.
And I get to change my mind between now and September.
Of course.
As we sit right now holding 11 and 23 and with Sam Darnold as our starting quarterback, I think this team is in the 5-6 win range.
Those are Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites, by the way, provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
You're listening to the Friday Football Feast on KFAN. What I was referencing is the nugget that you had in, as we call the Tolstoy, but it's Tolstoy War and Peace-esque each and every Thursday from the well-prepared Paul Charchian. But it's his book of bits. It's the notes that he will send 9 to noon in advance of a Friday football feast. And one of the notes that you had in there was quite intriguing to me, and it was quite telling, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I forgot to re-look or to look to see if it's still the case, but it was from FanDuel, and it was quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and the over/under, according to the Tolstoy, is 4.5.
Yeah,
and the over, if you think there will be more than 4.5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, more than 4. So if you think 5 or higher, well, that's you have to put up your $22 to win somebody else's 10. Or now it's 26, I believe, which I can't believe it's minus 260, and they haven't moved it to a 5. But see, moving it to a 5 could lead to a push, and they really don't want that. So, I mean, how are there not 5 quarterbacks drafted? How is this not a $26,000 to win 10? I mean, just not that you can bet that amount, but I mean, you can spread it out all across the country and or world. But Williams, Daniels, McCarthy, May, Penix Jr. I mean, how's that not an absolute first 5? I got 5 on it, first round cinch.
So I'm with you. It feels like Nix or Penix is going to find his way into the first round by some team that wants maybe the extra 5th-year guarantee for a quarterback, or maybe it's a team that passes on quarterback in the first round. Let's just say the Giants, for example. Let's say the Giants don't go quarterback in that first round.
Yeah.
Now they're looking at the second round. They go, you know what? If we move up just a handful of spots, we can go into the first round and go get Penix or Nix that may have fallen and still be available.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenarios. The Vikings will have 2 cracks at Nix and Penix. 2 cracks.
Perhaps the Chiefs scenario is all of the offensive players that are going to go in the top 10. So therefore, the defensive players that are going to drop, you might get teams that are like, I like Michael Penix Jr. Yes, I like Bo Nix for these 9 reasons. And yes, it is a deep quarterbacks draft. But are you kidding me? This Toledo cornerback, we had him mocked, simulated, slotted in the top 12.
Right.
And here he is at 22. We have to take him.
And that could very well happen.
Put the quarterbacks back. Now all of a sudden you're sweating a fat wager and you're stuck at 4. And like, well, Penix Jr., I mean, has to go, right? With the 27th pick, defensive player. With the 28th pick, second tight end. With the 29th pick, hey! I mean, that'd be crazy.
And if the Vikings pass at quarterback at 23 and get us that coveted 5th quarterback.
They won't have 23.
Let me give you a couple other scenarios where quarterbacks could go. Dallas, 24.
Yes.
They are at a breaking point. They're at their Kirk Cousins moment with Dak Prescott.
Yep.
So similar.
I agree.
Dak making a ton of money, hasn't equated to enough playoff success for them, can fill stats, and he wants a gigantic next contract.
They're to a certain extent taking the same approach with him the Vikings took with Cousins.
Yeah.
It's a line of delineation. We want you back. But we want Dak back, Dak. But here it is. And that's it. I mean, we ain't going $1 over. And I brought this up a little bit in passing yesterday because of a Florio piece at PFT I read the other day about the trend of the way Jerry Jones is moving with manipulating contracts. Oh, just for CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons,
Right.
Dak Prescott. It's like he's serving the underlings because it's easier and you're going to get fewer no's. But with his superstars, he's like messing around with all of them.
Well, so let me ask you this. You're Jerry Jones, and you can keep two of those three. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, and you have to pay them market value.
They have
right?
the first two.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I think Dak would be third.
Micah, absolutely. And then,
CeeDee Lamb is
Cooper
great.
Rush, though.
And CeeDee Lamb will cost you half of what Dak Prescott will cost.
Yeah, for now.
Right? Dak's going to be $50 million a year.
Oh.
And that is a massive commitment to a quarterback who has been good. I mean, by any measure, good.
Yeah.
But not great.
But if you had to, like, say you won something and the bonus was at whatever casino, whatever landing spot, whatever, you have to bet this $26,000 on a single wager. No parlays, no teasers, no pleasers. It's anything that you see in front of you. And one of the options is more than 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round. Well, yeah, but I mean, the other side of it, though, the plus 210. I mean, 26 large on a plus 210. You kidding me?
Yeah, it's plus 150 on FanDuel right now.
Yeah. Is it 4.5?
Yeah, it's 4.5.
Thank you. So what's the over? Then the over would be like 210?
205.
Oh, wow. The over's gone down.
So I think you'd...
Wow.
There's part of me, I'd want to
this might be a sucker bet.
The plus 1.5. I'd bet the under. I'd throw $100 on that if I'm betting a bunch of props for the draft.
And I mean, it's...
Because you're betting on getting weird, too. You're betting on the idea that it isn't actually just bang, 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 and everything that we've been talking about for 2 months, it's absolute chalk. The draft rarely ends up being like that. So betting on it getting weird, only 4 going, and instead of teams jumping up into the late 20s, you do it like people did with Will Levis last year. The Titans jumping up on early day 2 to grab the Will Levis. You just need 2 guys to fall, Nix and Penix, and you're getting paid 1.5.
But think about the latest steam that I brought up earlier from the NFL. I saw it at ProFootballTalk.com. Because the NFL must not believe Michael Penix Jr. and or Bo Nix are going to be taken in the top 20. They didn't invite them to the Detroit draft because they didn't want one of them or both of them sitting around with the cameras on them all the time saying, well, another pick went by. It's another defensive player, Vern.
See, by the way, we're behind it, but that is so annoying on the NFL part. You know how easy it would be to tell ESPN, tell NFL Network, how about the producer stops panning and stops choosing the camera on Will Levis as he sits there and he and his girlfriend become an internet meme? How about you don't absolutely bring it up every single pick? Well, it's such an easy fix. These kids want to go to the draft. Penix, in the end, if they got to stay another night in a hotel waiting for their name to be called, playing this invite system, that's so stupid.
But then if you have the Shield dictating to ESPN producer guy where to put your camera and where not, go ahead and give Florio about 30 seconds to catch that information and start where else are you controlling the producers? Where else are you controlling the directors? Where else are you manipulating the game? You're playing on Fridays. You're playing on Christmas. You're going to play on Tuesdays. Now you're manipulating producers and directors. This has to stop.
Well, Florio would absolutely do that. But in the end, if you just said, how about no cameras in the green room? I mean, that's pretty simple. Yeah, don't show kids pouting in the green room on draft night.
It's so sad.
It's so easy.
I know, but it's so sad when you see it.
I know. It is sad.
They limited it to 15 this year.
Yeah, and I just think that's dumb. I think there's such an easy fix to this.
Final hour of the Friday Football Feast on this beautiful Friday from the cornfields. After that.